I think Oddi's here now. Age, are you there, mate?
Yeah,
There he is, the big man. How are you, legend? Always good to see your
yeah,
pretty
pretty good.
face. How was your morning,
Thanks.
Adrian?
Challenging.
Because
I moved house yesterday. Uh, like I won't even know. Hard,
stressful. What's more stressful, the market or
stressful.
moving house?
Moving house, two kids,
Okay,
no internet, washing machine breaking, all that sort of stuff.
gotcha. Well, that'll help all of us because that puts things in perspective. Mate, thanks for coming on. I think we're all really excited to have you here. There's about 16 of us here today, 15, 16 of us. Good group. Um, Everyone I think knows who Adrian Oddi is, director of BW, close friend of mine, firstly, but director of Bresic Whitney, 15 years odd with the business, probably the most vocal leader at Bresic Whitney. Um, Really strong agent. Actually, Maclay said to me a couple of months ago, he said that he thinks that Adrian Oddi is the most skilled agent he knows, which was a huge no, he said that, and it was a huge
That's nice.
compliment. Yeah, it is. So that was really great. He runs a team of three, maybe four soon, Age.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's
I
it's
think so.
Jasmine, Jack Parry, who's part of this group, which is cool. You've got an assistant and potentially another associate in the pipeline.
That's a plan. Yeah,
Yeah. Are you are you enjoying real estate at the moment, mate?
yeah. Like I am now more than ever, but it's like my career right now is different to the career of like everyone watching this Zoom because I'm not I don't think I'm at the tail end of my career, but I'm like in a well established part where I sort of do real estate on my terms now.
Yeah. Yeah. If you went back to, you're right, no one's at your level here. But
Mm.
you are also a leader and a coach for your group. So let's go to what's on everyone's mind right now. Is it challenging there right now in the market?
Is it is the market challenging here?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It felt like just I think it maybe a few weeks, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. It was busy on Saturday because that's I don't know if everyone's based in Sydney. It was a busy Saturday. There were buyers
Mm.
saying they were interested at the open houses, and then when it came to Monday, like we left Saturday afternoon saying we'll sell three properties next week. And then it got to Monday, and I think we sold one that week. I was like, wow, what just happened? That felt a bit different.
And why do you, and what's changed from your sort of where you sit and what you're seeing?
So, like, I'll answer it from a point of sale point of view. It's just like buyer behavior. So, I think that where buyers were coming at us with a quick offer or a strong offer, now they're just really hesitating. So, like, I'll give you an example. I sold something just now, like 3 minutes ago, um, in Annandale. So, like in Sydney, popular suburb. And I've had maybe 60, 70 people through, and
Mm.
there was probably five or six people that could have bought that, and five or six people that came back for second looks. But in reality, it boiled down to two buyers. One of them offered the guide was 2.6. I bumped it to 2.7. One of them offered below the guide 2.645. So I haven't seen that in a long time. The other one offered 2.68, and then I've been negotiating for like 3 days. We just landed at 2.76, but negotiating for 3 days. And one of the guys is super cautious, and the other one's in Saint Tropez. Like, so the time difference was a 3 day negotiation to come up 60 grand or like 100 grand, but call it 60 grand.
Yeah.
Like, it was really challenging.
So if I sell 20 properties a year,
Yeah.
right? Um, What's your advice to, and right now I've got three listings on the market and I'm not really getting a lot of traction, Adrian. And I'm feeling it like this sucks a bit, right? I don't
Yeah.
really love what I'm doing at the moment. I've got two open homes tomorrow. I've got big gaps between where the buyers are and where my sellers are. What's your advice to me?
Okay. Can I, uh, it's a long answer
Yeah,
with a few
please.
points. Do you want that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think the first things, and I shared this with the Balmain office early this week, like these markets are the best. They are the best. And you just have to start to shift your mindset, because these markets are opportunities to grow. And with that growth comes higher fees and better business and better clients and all that sort of stuff. But it starts with a mindset shift. You have to learn to love what everybody else hates. Like, I love that. I love that there'd be a bunch of agents of my competitors sitting around right now saying, this is so hard. Awesome. Like, keep crying. Like, not crying, that's insensitive, but like, you get what I'm trying to say.
Keep
Um,
whinging.
keep whinging, yeah, because that's
Yeah.
not going to fix anything. And trying to consoling one of your colleagues ain't going to help. So I think the first thing is just this mindset shift that this is an incredible opportunity. And if
Yeah.
anyone's in your room coaching with you right now, then they probably have that mindset already. So that's the first thing. Like, I would label that and say, you need to learn to love what everybody else hates. So that's my
Yeah.
first step. Just change the mindset. I actually took
Yeah.
some points down. The second thing is energy, right?
Mhm.
So this is, again, this might be controversial, but this is my view. I've
Yeah.
done 3 or 4, maybe more, really hard markets, and I've always thrived. When the market gets tough like this, you move towards health, right? Because again, I actually think what you should be in a tough market is the fittest you've ever been. And I say that because when you're like, what do you do when you're sad or like you're whinging? Like,
Going
you guys get it, right? You're eating junk food and stuff like that. Just put that to the side for a second and move towards health. So you need to ramp up your training. You need to eat well and move towards the fittest you've ever been. The other thing, I'm just looking to the left because that's where my notes
Yeah,
are.
you're right. You're right. Well,
Um,
listening. Sorry,
okay,
Adrian, just for 10 seconds. Everyone, Gold, we're going to get into this. I've put up the chat, the meeting chat. I've just put it up. So if you've got any questions as we go, or if you've got, like, please. And also, I might even open up if you guys have got a question for Adrian as we go. We've got him for 45 minutes, so there's no rush. But if you've got some questions as we go, let me know. And I can also cut across and say, Adrian, Clay would like to ask you something. Adrian, Sam would like to ask you something. And you can ask Adrian direct. So keep going, Adrian. So you're saying
okay,
lifestyle, clean up your health and fitness, your lifestyle, and
yeah.
try to be better and better and be fitter to deal with the headwinds.
Definitely. And I also think, like, if you've got these big, ambitious goals, which I've had my whole career, and you're not achieving those, if you're
Mm.
simultaneously doing something else, which is getting fitter, then you're actually growing. Like, you're actually achieving something. It's just not real estate based. But the
Yeah.
thought of like, real estate's hard, I'm going backwards, and then everything else goes backwards, just move forward in another area of your life. So that's just been something that I've always done.
Yeah.
Um, the third point, so mindsets first, energy second, third is mental. So
Yeah.
what I do, like, this is just my system. I listen to a podcast when I get in my car for the first 20 minutes every day, non-negotiable. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what it is. You can listen to, like, I like that the Alex Phillips one. There's a
Yeah.
John McGrath one, but I listen to heaps of them. Just 20 minutes, like, you'd be amazed. Like, I see that as you become like whoever it is that you hang around. Like, that saying, right? So you can choose who drives to work with you in the morning. Like, put someone inspirational in there, and you'll get inspiration from someone, because you can even listen to past interviews that people have done with you. So I put 20 minutes every day. I also do one at the end of the day at the moment.
Yeah.
Stay positive, because when you like that negative self-talk, like, I'm not saying be delusional
Yeah.
and tell yourself you're happy if you like. So I'm not a like positivity person, but what I am saying is try and stay positive. Like, don't engage in negative self, like in that negative chat with
Yeah.
people, like negative stuff. Stay positive. I on I'll just share this. So last Friday afternoon, and this is just, I guess, a culture that we've created here, and specifically in the Balmain office, which I know. Um, Andrew Liddell exchanged the property for 5.5 mil. He exchanged the second one. Like, these are really good sales. He's come over. Like, we're sort of doing a just sold email together. Like, it's just infectious. Like, we're just feeding off his energy. He's just dropped 2 big deals in the area. We're
Yeah.
loving that. I had another experience when Maclay Longhurst actually called me on Tuesday morning. We had a
Yeah.
really good chat. Like, you can't help but feed off Macca's energy. So that's my third point. Like, my third point is, like, it's a mental game, and just
Yeah.
decide how you're going to play that space. Podcasts, books, colleagues, hang around positive people, and just keep yourself
Yeah.
up that way. I'm going to go to the fourth point. Now, these are real estate based. Okay.
Yeah.
Vendor management.
Yeah.
Something that I actually think I'm pretty good at. Vendor management. There's a
Yeah.
saying that's been used forever, but it's actually true, which is frequency builds trust. I think that what you need to
Frequency,
do builds
build
trust.
trust. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what I mean by that is your
Mhm.
clients need to know that you're thinking about them, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're not like, there's this view that we have that if it's negative, they don't want to hear from us. Like, that's crazy. They want to hear
Mhm.
from you all the time. So
Yeah.
just a simple system is what I do is I try and have 3 points of contact. And some, if I've just gone online, there may not be 3 points of contact, but definitely 3 points of contact with my listings that are in the thick of it, right? So the deal that I just did, the one that just exchanged, I would say that in the last, where I could have sent a message, I called the client. I reckon maybe 20 points of contact in the
Yes.
last 3 days with the client. He went from saying, and again, I'm not in the business of telling people to do what they don't want to do, but when we launched his property, he said 29 to 3 was his number. And
Yeah.
by last night at the tail end of the negotiation, she's like, please get me 275. And he actually just said to me now, and I said to him, how do you feel? And he said, mate, I'm so happy that you handled that. Like, you really stepped up. Unbelievable. All I did is, yeah, okay, I've got a skill set, but I communicated with him overly. So here's a simple system. I have, that's my checklist. So that's my listings, Jack's listings, Jasmine's listings, everything that's exchanged, and then everything that I'm chasing. There's also more stuff on there. So all I do is when I come in now is I just look at all my listings. I try and have 1 point of contact with my clients. I'm
Yeah.
huge on voice notes on WhatsApp. I'm always
Yeah.
leaving voice notes, especially if there's two people. So
Yeah.
just send them a message in the morning. This is what I'm doing today. In the middle of
Yes.
the day, if you can, make it a phone call. And at the end of the day, do another voice note. 3 points of contact. This is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to call all these buyers from this particular property. I'm going to give this an hour or two of my time. I'm going to do my best to get people committed for tomorrow. I'll update you later, let you know how I've gone. Call you at 2 o'clock. Those calls are done. I've got 3 people confirmed. They're good
Yes.
buys. They're bid on stuff. Tomorrow should be a great open house. I'll check in with you again at the end of the day. End of the day, mate. Now done everything I possibly can. I'm ready for tomorrow. If you've got any questions, let me know. But I also do, like, on a Friday, I do it's not, I don't know, everything's got terms in real estate, set to sell, whatever that stuff is. But I would ring you if I'm opening your property and I would say, let's just talk about tomorrow. So it's week one or it's week two. Week two, numbers that we'd expect is somewhere between 10 and 15 groups through. We want two
Yeah.
or three buyers coming back for a second look, and ideally one or two new people putting their hand up. The other
Yeah.
thing is, right, I'm not, when I say to clients and I explain this to them, we want 10 or 15 groups. I don't necessarily want 10 or 15 groups. I want 10 or 15 groups because what I'm looking for is qualified buyers. So it's just a numbers game. The more people through, the better the chance that they're being a qualified buyer. So
Yeah.
I actually articulate to people what I want my conversation to sound like after the open home. So what I want to do tomorrow is ring you and say this. We had 15 groups, but there's
Yeah.
6 qualified buyers in there. Two of them have come back for another look. Two are new and said they're potentially interested. That's
Mhm.
what I want to say to you tomorrow. And then,
Mhm.
like, that's it. You go through the motions, and then I leave a voice note for my clients every Saturday on how the open house went. And I'm either
Yeah.
saying that or not saying that, but I'm also layering in that if I'm not telling you that, if we don't have qualified buyers, we don't have 10 or 15 groups, then we're going to have a conversation because there's a breakdown somewhere. I'm
Yeah.
very gentle with, there's a breakdown somewhere. We're just going to have to navigate that. All right. But I'll just go back. So that was my fault. Vendor management is key. Build trust. That you're going to have to tell people what they don't want to hear, but you have to earn the right as an agent to be able to tell them that. They need to feel like, I trust this guy. I trust him. He's got my back. Now, you don't earn that in a phone call. You don't earn that by sending an email. You earn that over time by doing lots of little things. It's like winning a listing or losing a listing. You don't usually win a listing because you did one big thing. You probably did
Yeah.
10 or 15 things right. Same as vendor management.
Yeah.
Fifth point, sorry.
Yeah.
Product
Fifth.
knowledge and market knowledge.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between product knowledge and a difference between market knowledge. Product knowledge is just simply knowing
Can I
everything.
just stop you there, mate? One sec.
Sure,
So
sure.
everyone, I know Adrian's going quite quickly through these. Um, I asked Adrian last week. I said, mate, just consider what you want to talk about. So I haven't interviewed him much, and we haven't had a conversation. We will get to that, but I know there's a lot of listening, and he's churning out a lot of things that he's dealing with today, and he's far more advanced than all of you. So he wanted to think about, well, what are the things that he's doing now that's working for him and share that. Once we get through this, I'll start talking to him about other things. I'll start asking questions about negotiations and how he got into the industry and what he did when he first started. So just to confirm, before he goes to point five, he said it's a harder market, but you need to change your mindset. He's saying that, look after your lifestyle. That was point two. Point three, it's mental. So be careful what you're processing. He's using podcasts and, talking to positive people to ensure that he stays positive. Point four, he said vendor management. So for all of you who've got listings now, you're all having trouble selling them. He's saying frequency builds trust. So he's going, I've got difficult vendors too, just like all 16 of you guys and girls. He said, but the way I'm getting around that is I'm smashing them with communication daily. I've got 3 points of communication. I'm increasing my communication with my vendors to show them that I'm doing everything possible to then get them or, jam them for an offer that's at this level, which isn't at the level that they would sell it at. And that's how he's getting his deals done. He's now saying point five, product knowledge and market knowledge is really important. He's saying that we're just going to hear from him now about this. He's saying if that's not a part of your process, guys and girls, how are you going to educate vendors and how are you going to help buyers? So he's saying, in a hot market, you probably don't have to give a shit about vendor management and market knowledge because buyers are throwing themselves at you and the offers are coming in higher than what the vendors are prepared to sell at. That's easy. He's saying now to deal with the gap, I'm picking up my communication with my vendors a lot. And now he's just about to tell us about vendor management. Go ahead. Sorry, Adrian.
Okay. So product knowledge is
Mm.
is simple. That's just knowing everything that's on the market that's currently for sale that's sold recently. Like that's basic. That should be 10 out of 10. I should be able to ask any one of you what's on the market at 2.8 to $3 million for argument's sake, or if your sale price is higher. And you should be
Across
able
how
to
many
tell me
across
everything,
across how many suburbs,
whatever
Age?
whatever you consider your core market to be. My core
Okay.
market is
Yeah.
Balmain East, Birchgrove, Roselle, Lilyfield, and sort of dabbles into Annandale. I need to know everything that's on the market. You have to know every competing house, right? So that's the first thing. The difference between market knowledge is knowing who's on a house, who's got a contract, who's bid, what they bid to, who's selling, why they selling. Like that sort of information is key. So for example, if I'm selling something, and I'm just going to give you some real life examples. So this house that just sold in Annandale, right? So I'm gonna admit that I dropped the ball because Annandale's not my core market, but I've just sold a few houses in Annandale, right? So we go to the first open house, and the buyers say to me, because I'm like qualifying everybody, like I've already spoken about qualifying, I won't talk about that. But
Yeah.
I've but I'm asking the people, okay, so you've seen this, what else are you seriously considering at the moment? Right? There's two questions for this market that I'd ask every buyer. Like, do you think you'll buy before Christmas or do you think you'll buy in the next 4 weeks? Like you can ask closing questions like that. Do you think you'll buy by the end of October? If they say no, like it's the other thing about this market, it's all tied into what I'm talking about, is there's a portion of buyers that are going to do something. The
Yeah.
best buyers that I'll be working with is if you've just sold something. So this place in Annandale, there's an underbidder. I have to stick to that guy like Lou because he's most likely to buy something. So like sitting there making 30 calls on a callback sheet, like that's the guy that he deserves more attention than anybody else. The other people that deserve attention are the ones that have just sold because they're going to go into the market and buy. So if you're dealing with someone and they've just sold, whether it's your client or somebody else, is like stick to them like glue. Stick to the best. The best buyers in the market are the ones that are buying in the next 4 weeks, 8 weeks. Just stick to them like glue, and like just wait and see what happens there. Like from them you also get information. So I just want to go back to where I dropped the ball. So this place in Annandale, I speak to two buyers and like we're both considering these houses. I'm like, oh shit, what are these houses? And anyway, so I'll look them up and then I immediately communicate that to the owner. And I said, look, these have come up in the last week. This is our competition. So like all of a sudden, I tried to explain this to Balmain. I don't like the term conditioning, but let's just swap it for educating. You don't have to sit there and tell your client their house isn't worth what it's worth. There should be enough data points where you're directing them to look at this sale and that sale, and they're watching those sales, and they're like, okay. So, for example, last Saturday morning, Jack and I had an auction at 9 o'clock. Two of my vendors were there. Two of my other vendors were there. And
Yeah.
they're like, this is awesome. And I said, guys, yeah, the guide's 2. We bumped it to 2.1. If this goes for 2.5, your house is worth 2.2. It's like a no-brainer. But the house
Because
sells for
it's
2.3.
because it's superior. You're saying this house is superior because of
Correct.
whatever. So whatever that
Yeah,
gets, you'll be 10% less, is
should be.
what the
Yeah,
buyer.
should be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd ask the client, like what, like you can ask the client before the auction, come and watch my auction. I actually try and encourage them to inspect other properties. So I said to this guy, Troy, what do you think the gap is? And like he was like, oh yeah, the gap should be 10% or something like that. I don't know what he said, right? But he comes and watches, and instead of selling for 2.5, it sells for 2.3. Do you think I have to then sit there and send him some negative article, or like that's how agents like they label this condition in, and that's their interpretation? That's not. He just needs to see himself, right? He's got this guy turns up, he's got a competing house, right, with the same price guide. Come and have a look. So after the auction, it goes for 2.3. There's two underbidders. And I say to him, Troy, these guys don't want to look at your house. Like, why do you think that is? Why do you think two people who want to buy a house in this market, who have engaged a lawyer, made contract amendments, and just put up their hand, you think yours is better, and it's a kilometer away, not even 500 meters. You think yours is better. Why do you think they want to buy yours if yours is then cheap at 2.3? Like, you tell me. I don't know what the answer is. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but you tell me. And he's like, yeah, I get it. Maybe it's not worth that. He said it, not me. So the vendor education piece is so important that there's no trickery, there's no games. Treat a seller with respect. I'm so big on this, right? Shannon Whitney told me like a long time ago. He said, agents treat people, and I'm not suggesting anyone's doing this. He said, agents treat people like they're smarter than the seller. And agents don't tell the sellers everything because they think the sellers aren't capable of making a decision for themselves. When I let go of all that programming bullshit around, and I just said, here are your options. What do you want to do? My vendor management went like through the roof. So all I'm saying is, just think about it. What would you need to know if you were the owner of that? Like if you were your client, you should be attending an auction that is comparable, and you should form a view before and you should form a view after on what it's worth. So in that example, like I'll just square off on this, right? So a buyer that looked at this Annandale place that I sold, said she was interested, came back, took a contract, disappeared. Then what happened is Chris Nunn sells a property in Glebe last week. I didn't even know she was on it. I should have known because we have visibility, but I didn't know. He sends the sold email saying this lady Margaret bought. From that email, Jasmine saw it before me and said, there's Margaret. That's why she's disappeared. So I've sent that to the client because he happens to know this lady Margaret personally, who's looked at his house and expressed interest. I said, mate, this is what Margaret just bought. And he's like, that's not good for us, is it? Probably not. And then not only that, last weekend, there was two other auctions. One in Roselle, one of the buyers that had a contract on his place bought that for 2.8, and someone else bought a house for 2.8. And when I'm talking to him, because his number was always 293, after that one weekend, one day of auctions, look at this, look at this, look at this. What do you think he says to me on Monday? Do you think
I'll
he's still
take
talking about 2.9 to 3 million?
2.7.
Yeah. Yeah. I got the offer of 2.68. He goes, awesome, we're in business now. And I'm like, wow, that's more than what I was expecting you to say. But I've spoken to him 5 times. I'm across everything. He has complete confidence that I'm not there trying to program him. I'm there trying to get him the best price. And I'm talking to him 3 times a day. And I have all this market intel that he doesn't have. Yeah, that did sell for 2.8. This was the buyer. This was the underbidder. Yep, that did sell for that. Margaret stopped returning calls because she went for this. Okay, Adrian, I'm in your hands. Just tell me what to do now. And that's how it went down. Okay, buyer work is part of that. Stick close to the people that you know. So like underbidders, people that have just sold, people that have asked for contracts, just stick to them like glue. Like if you do anything after this meeting, if you're not doing that, make a list of 10 people that have made an offer on one of your properties who hasn't bought recently, or ask for a contract who you know will buy. Just stick with them. That's all you have to do. The last part is seller work. Here's the best news about this market, right?
Yep.
Sales create listings. Like that's my sort of market. Sales create listings. If you execute, people will ring you wanting to sell. They will see that. The market is intelligent. If they see sold, 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 they'll ring you. And this whole thing, where people go to appointments and they promise the world and they cheat fees, all that sort of stuff, the market just goes, yeah, not interested in that. Where's your last 5 sales? And I'll say that to people. Let's not focus on what we're going to do. And I'll give you guys some dialogue, right? This is how I address that sort of thing. I'm like, if you consider listing appointments, there's all this sort of stuff. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. If everybody did what they said they were going to do, if everybody did that, the clearance rate would be 100%. So why is it 60%? What happened to 40% of those conversations? They were just hot air. So you're a seller, you're making the biggest decision, one of the biggest decisions of your life. You have to decipher between what's hot air and what's substance. How would you do that? Ivan, how would you do that? Do you know how to do it? So like I asked the question, the only way you can do it, you can only be accountable to your track record. So let's look at your last 10 sales. Let's look at what did you quote? What did you get? How long did it take to sell? Let's look at everything. And that's all I focus on. I say to people, let's not like, I'm not going to give you some massive spill. Why don't we just have a look at what I've done for the last 3 months? And let's look, the market tightened up in the last month. Here's 8 sales. Look at them all. Every single one went above the guide. They all got results. And not only that, in this sort of market, I'm more inclined to ask for a testimonial, which I never asked for, because it's also quite helpful, because I can also pump that out to people saying, look, yeah, it's tough. Everyone's saying it's tough, but people are writing me letters. So sales create listings. You can get higher fees. You can get higher fees as well because they actually want you. Andy went to a listing yesterday. I went to look at this house. These people want 5.5, and we both looked at it. We thought it was 4.5. Other agents are saying 5 mil plus, and like I'll just share it. Like other agents are like 1.3%. Andy said 1.95%. And he said, that's what we charge. If you want a result, that's what we charge. That's our fee. And they're like, And like, I suspect we don't have it yet, but I'm tipping that we probably, or Andy will probably get that, because he's like, there's between Andy and I, there's 16 or 17 sales this month. Where's everybody else's sales?
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, good point there from Adrian. I love it. The frequency builds trust with vendor management. So I know a lot of you are sort of in an arm wrestle with your vendors. You have to increase how much you're speaking with them and updating them. The product, I've got 3 points just on what we've just spoken about. Number 2, with product knowledge in the market, you have to go to other open homes and auctions and see what's going on. Invite them to your own auctions, your sellers, and you then using that information, guys and girls, to then give that to your vendors to say, this is what's happening in the 2 to 2.2 price range. That's what's happening with the $1.2 million market. That's what's happening with the $3 million houses at the moment. So just by giving them updates on what's going on in the market, that should help them go, okay, well, what should I then do, Paul Dukes? What should I do, Melinda Antella? What should I do, Clay, to get a result? So he's using anecdotal evidence in the market to help him position his vendors. So I thought that was really cool. That makes sense, Age. What's a mistake that most agents are making that you see in this market, Adrian? I don't know if it's probably a pretty general question, but if you could think about other agents, if I said to you, what is a mistake that a lot of agents are making? Because you've told us what works for you, right? I made that many notes. What's a mistake that you see a lot of other agents making right now?
So when I list to sell, right? I list to sell. I'm not like listing to get a listing, right? So I think there's been a handful of listings lately. I don't actually miss much. I reckon my conversion rate could be as high as 90% for what I pitch on. But I would say that there's been a handful of listings, which is rare for me, which coincides with the market, where they've gone on and they've been told way more than what I was prepared to tell them. So it's pricing. And I think, like whether the market's good or whether the market's not good or whatever, like just, I guess, move away from labeling. Like you have to become an expert at pricing and delivering pricing when it's not what somebody wants to hear and when it is what they want to hear. Like you just have to learn how to have a really good pricing conversation. And would you like a quick example of a pricing, of a listing that I didn't get, which I suspect was price driven? I sold something in Lilyfield 2 years ago, and these people called me in. Now they pay 2.7. They give you the spiel. Oh yeah, I've spent money on it. I'm looking around. I'm like, I don't know where. Like, it doesn't look like you spent much money, but like, I get it. That's them trying to lift my value up. Okay. And I said, can I just make an assumption here? And they said, yeah. I said, well, you want your stamp duty back. You want like the sales, like you want my fee and everything back. So you probably hope, and a little bit of money, right? And they're like, yeah. I said, so you're probably hoping for 3.2. And they're like, exactly. I said, oh, cool. I said, all right, well, how like delicate do you want me to be around this, or do you want me to be transparent around my observation of the market right now? And they're like, be transparent. Like everyone asks for honesty. I don't know if they really want it. I think people want hope, but I don't think they want honesty. But anyway, that's a side note. I've just learned that over 23 years. And I said, guys, you bought in September 21. Most people who bought in September 21, and there's like a couple of exceptions here. If you bought in September 21 and your house needs a renovation, right? You guys don't. Or if you bought in September 21 and you don't have parking, based on the last wave of sale, there's a good chance you won't get what you paid for it back. And I'm really sorry to tell you that. And I can give you the evidence. If you bought a house that was fully renovated in September 21, which I sort of identify as the peak of the market, you probably will get 10%, maybe 15% more. You guys don't have parking. And in my view, I don't think the market has actually moved. And I use myself as an example. I bought in September 21. I sold for 5% less. My house needs a reno. Not only that, what I do at appointments is I try not get into this conversation around, I think it's worth this or that. And like this whole debate around, like, I'm not interested in debating. What I'm interested in is I always take my iPad in, I go on realestate.com, I make a collection, and I just do a quick audit. So I knew what these people would want before I went in there. It was like pretty obvious. And I did everything that sold between, I went like 2.5 to 3.2, and everything that's on the market. And I said, guys, if you make a decision to sell, this is a big one, right? So what I'm saying now is a big one, and it takes a bit of courage. I said, if you make a decision to sell, you have to make a decision what you're aiming for price-wise. That's a decision you have to make. But what I'm suggesting is we can navigate this conversation one or two ways. If we navigate it and we just anchor on what you bought it for, that's what we anchor on, what you bought it for and how you want more, as opposed to how a buyer would establish the value of our house is right now, then we're going to have a problem and you're not going to sell. So if we're going to have a conversation about pricing, we have to put aside the fact that you paid 2.7 in 2021. And now we have to establish the value the same way that a buyer will. Now, this is what I also educate people on, how do people price, right? There's 3 ways you can price a house. Like a valuer, the valuer just looks at data. It's typically 6 weeks, 12 weeks old, and they just look at what's sold, and they got this formula. Let's just put that to the side, I say to everyone, because I valuers ringing me every week for my opinion. The second thing is, how does a seller establish value? What did I do? I looked at what I bought it for. I thought, you know what, a block of land this big in Bondi must be worth this big. If you renovate this, this will be worth this much. My land tax is this much, or my council rates. The bloke next door told me I'll get this much, or this sort of thing. The house down the street sold for like this much 2 years ago. That's what it's got to be worth. How does a buyer establish value? A buyer is only interested in what's on the market right now that they think is comparable and what's sold recently. And when I say recent, probably in the last 3 months, because they need to think that if that sold, it sold again, it would sell again for the same money. So what's on the market right now and what sold very recently? And then there's one more layer to that. And I lay this one more layer to it. This is technical, and I lay this into my listing presentation. Their perception of competition at an open house. So if they walk into a busy open house, a buyer will think they need to pay more. If they walk into an open house that's dead, you're flat, all this sort of stuff, they'll think they're going to get it for a deal. So what I say to sellers is, let's have a think about this. Hi, Mel. Are you waving at me?
She's
No.
on.
Okay.
She's actually muted. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so my pricing exercise, I establish value the way a buyer would establish value. So right now, you and I, Ivan, we're going to pretend to be buyers for a house like this. And you know what? If that's hard to process, let's pretend this is the next door neighbor's house. Let's move away from any emotional attachment you've got. I don't want to be insensitive, but this is really important. And this is going to determine the next 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks of your life, and whether that's a good experience or a bad experience. This one exercise we're doing right now. I have a strategy to get you sold, but we have to address pricing, because pricing is what everything stems from.
You'll do this at the listing or after it's signed?
At the listing.
Yeah.
Because if they want too much, I don't want the listing.
Yeah.
But that's me.
So carry on. So you're talking to them about the potential value based on how a buyer
Yeah.
does it, which is there's
Yes.
four other houses in the market. This is the land size. These are the characteristics. And that they position this house somewhere between that house and this house. And the guide there is that, and the guide there is that.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
open a house and say, oh,
Yeah.
okay, this is what we're going to be competing with right now, this house. Right. And sometimes it's good when there's no price guide because they look at it and they're like, yeah, yeah, that's really comparable. Okay, cool. So you want 3.2, their guide's 2.2. Oh, yeah. I didn't say, I'm not trying to crush your dreams here. I'm just telling you what you need to know so you can navigate a market and go and spend 20 grand getting your house ready or 30 grand, like marketing, furniture, I don't know, styling, blah, blah, blah.
So, Adrian,
Let's look at
are you saying that our house is worth 2.5?
it, maybe. It may be. But why don't we have a look at another sale?
We wouldn't sell for that.
Sure. Okay. How do you think you compare to that house size?
I think ours is better.
Okay. And how have you formed that view? What do you think? Because I'm totally open to hearing
I
this.
don't like that spot down there. I think it's better up here. And, this is a better street and we get more light. There we've got two parking, they've got one.
Okay. They're fair points. I don't agree with the position, but we don't have to debate that, you and I, like, because that's subjective. You might like that, somebody else might like that. I don't think there's an objective, tangible difference between these positions. Parking, yeah, you know what? Maybe you're right. So you're at 3.2, they're at 2.2, probably aiming
I
for
have,
2.4. Do you think that?
sorry, I have had two other agents both say high twos to three.
Sure. And did they go through the sales data with you, or did they just give you
Yeah,
a
they gave
figure?
us a few sales and they felt confident, Adrian.
They did. Okay. When you went through the data, so like I'm going to challenge you here. When you went through the data, did you go through it blasé, or did you actually go into the data? Did you look this sale that we're talking about right now? Did that come up in conversation?
I think so. I can't remember.
You should know. You should know that because that's irresponsible if you don't know that. And you're wasting your time and you're about to waste 30 grand.
And you would say that, and they wouldn't, and they're okay with that. They're not disrespected. They're okay with that, or you don't care.
I do care because it's people's houses. But like the example we've given you is anchored on one. If you like, I show you one sale and you go, tell me what it's worth. No, no, no. Just wait, Ive. This is really important. Let's look at the second sale and let's look at the third. Okay. So there is data. So, oh, but Ive, this one went for two. Okay. Yeah, but that's not going to come up for buyer. That sale 2 years ago and what your neighbor said is not going to come up in a conversation that I have. Right.
Yeah.
So we need to stay focused on what's important to you right now. So what I would say to someone is, this is a decision you have to make, right? So if you look at this data and you're adamant, you're looking at that house and you're like, yeah, yeah, we're $1 million better, then you should go to market. I guess the decision I have to make is it's your time or it's your money, but it's my time, right? Now, I think it's important that I understand what your goals are because we should have the same goal, but we don't have to necessarily have the same opinion on value. But the value it can't be that big. Like if there's a 5% differential, that's okay. Maybe a 10% differential. That could be okay. But the reason why that's a challenge for me is because that's going to affect how I set up your sale. And that
Yeah.
may subsequently affect the price you get. Now, one other thing I say to people, I know my pricing accuracy. So over the last 303 sales in the last 3.5 years, my pricing accuracy has been 94.5% accurate. If you list with me, so these are my stats, and this is what I say at a listing appointment. My average selling time is 19 days, right?
Yeah.
My auction clearance rate for the last 3.5 years has been 91%,
Yeah.
right? And my pricing accuracy is 94.5% accurate. So you know how I went back and I said, like, there's the hot air conversations that people have?
Yeah.
I'll simplify why you should consider me, Ive. If you list your house with me,
Yeah.
there is a 94.5% chance you'll get the price I said. There's
Yeah.
a 91% chance you'll be sold within 19 days.
Okay.
That's all I can offer you.
I want to wrap this up soon and go in a different direction, but tell me when you're finished.
That's all I got. If you don't listen to me, then
Yeah,
like
no, that's
I've
good.
just given you some pretty solid stats around.
My concern right now is you're at a level which is a really high level, and my group, it's helpful, but we're trying to beat agents like you. So if we're not Adrian Oddi and I'm competing with you, how can I beat you in a listing? If I've sold 15
Yeah,
this
that's
year
hard.
well, how can I? How can I beat you in a
That's pretty
listing?
hard. Well, I'm not referring to me. I'm thinking about Andy. Like, oh, how do you beat that guy in a listing? Like, and
Well,
let me just let
tell me
me.
the ways you
I'm
can
gonna tell you.
because
I'm gonna tell you. Just one sec.
yeah,
Firstly, let's just look at something more sort of conceptually.
yeah.
The way
But
to
I want
beat me is to out
to
is
just so you know, I want to get value for these guys and girls.
sure.
Hearing what you're doing when you're selling 8 a month and you're listing 90% or selling 95% of the ones you take on, that's not helping me right now.
Yeah, okay, here.
That's actually not helping me, mate. So I need you to think about Jack. I need you to think
Yeah,
about Renee and others in the group. And this is the challenge. You've got to take yourself away from that and go, shit, like if you didn't have 12 listings and your name's not Adrian Oddi, how am I dealing with 3 opens tomorrow where I'm getting 3 people through? And I know you're going to go, well, market knowledge and frequency builds trust, and you're going to have to. Also, I want to know how does someone, if they're 26 or 32 years old and they're doing 15 or 20 deals a year, how can we get to 30? That's what I want. So finish up, but I want to go back here and I'll ask you some other questions.
okay. I'm just going to share with you. This is what I say to everyone.
Hmm.
Like, how do you beat Andrew in a listing? Like, take it away from me. The guy's work commitment's 10 out of 10. His buyer work, his seller work, his skill set is all 10 out of 10. Like, he's hard to beat, but you just have to be an 11 out of 10 at all those areas. You just have to outwork him and out hustle him and outmaneuver him and look at things where, like, if he is managing 15 listings, you have to find the little window where you possibly have more time. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'd be doing. That's the angle that I would probably take.
Hmm.
I, I, I think whether I'm talking to someone and they've got 15 sales a year and they're 26, or they're 40 and they've got 50 sales, I still always come back to the same formula because it's how I check myself when I'm
Hmm.
not satisfied with my performance. I always ask myself these 3 questions. What is my product knowledge like out of 10?
Yeah.
What's my buyer work out of 10?
Yes.
And what's my seller work out of 10?
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I ask myself every time. I always come back down to that because if you said to me, I'm struggling, and I asked you right now, tell me about your market and tell me everything, and you can't do that, then let's
Hmm.
not have the conversation on what I would do. Just start with that first. If I ask
Okay.
anyone on this group, tell me 10
Yeah.
buyers that are ready to commit in this market and you can't do that, then I don't know what we're talking about. Go and
Okay.
figure that
Good.
out
That's
first,
helpful.
right?
Now that's helpful.
Go and,
Adrian, I'll pause you there. That's helpful. You're saying to this group, guys and girls, if you don't have a list of top 10 buyers in the market right now, start there. You're also saying if you're having challenges out there, get to know the market better because your market knowledge has to improve to help you list and help you with buyers. You're saying that whether you sell 10 a year or 80 a year, you have to keep checking your mindset and making sure you're putting good things and trying to stay in a positive frame of mind. That's good. That's helpful for sure for all of us.
well, the
Um,
reality is, like Jasmine's sitting next to me now. There
hmm,
is no difference between Jasmine and I. None. I've just been doing it for longer. But Jasmine's a junior agent who's like her career's taking off now.
yeah,
We do the same thing all day long. I just do
yeah,
more of it because I've been doing it for longer. But
yeah,
like we sit here, we have the same conversations with people. In fact, Jasmine
yeah,
has better buy work than me because my buy work's questionable, right? Because I rely on profile.
yeah.
But it's the same thing. And that's why I'm saying always go back to that. What's your product knowledge like? What's your buyer work like? What's your seller work like? If you're not communicating your results to people that are thinking of selling once you get the results, and I don't know what's like, that same chicken or the egg, I don't know what comes first. I actually don't know what comes first. It's this holistic cycle. And, you bring it back. So you've got to learn how to list. You've got to learn how to deal with pricing. That's how I deal with pricing. Now, would I, um,
What is 10 out of, that's a good question, Jack. What's 10 out of 10 buy work to you?
I think I'm going to take you back to when I built this office and it was just me, no Andy. It was actually Mel and I, now that I think
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
I would say
And Tommy
that,
Chappell, that'll answer your question.
okay.
Go, go,
So
Age.
back in 24-13, our ability to qualify was outstanding, and our ability to identify a buyer in the market and stick to them like glue was outstanding, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you some examples of what that would look like. So you know how like things come on
And
the
quickly,
market.
and quickly, because I've got 20 other things I want to ask you.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so you know, I got to the point, Mel and I got to the point in 2013 that if we're working with a buyer, I'd be ringing the buyer before I even appraise the house. If I got called into an appraisal, I'd ring you and say, I know what you're looking for. I'm talking to you once, twice, 3 times a week. I'm emailing you stuff all the time, every other agent stuff, right? I know what you're looking for. I actually just got called into this house. I'm going to go look at it. And if it's good, I'm going to call you, give you the address, or here's the address, go and drive past, let me know, and I can mention you to them. Like, that's the sort of level I got. I don't have any fear around giving an address and something I'm appraising, all that sort of stuff. I lost that a long time ago. But that's what I would do. So I'm just going to, my standard qualification, this is just 30 seconds, right? If I met you tomorrow, hi, Ive, nice to meet you. You looking to buy at the moment? Yes, I am. How long you been looking for? 3 months. Okay. Anything that you're seriously considering right at the moment? Yes, no. Do you think you'll buy in the next 4 weeks? Is that the intention? Do you want to buy in the next 4 weeks? Yeah. How many houses are you looking at today? Oh, I'm looking at this many. Just tell me bedrooms wise, 3 bedrooms, price wise, up to what level do you want to go above? Up to this price point. Boom, done. I'm not interested in talking about north facing, south facing, 2 bathrooms, blah, blah, blah. I just want to understand what what your capacity. You're looking at 3 bedroom houses up to 1.5. Out of interest, would you go to 1.6? Why? I might have something coming up off market. There's always something coming up off market. No, 1.5 is our hard limit. Okay, cool. All right. And you think if something came up, you've been looking for 3 months, you've seen enough. Have you seen this, this, and this? Yeah, I have. Did you know about this and this off market with ones with Bell, ones with McGrath? Did you know about those? No, I didn't actually. Okay. You should go and look at those. Like back in the day, Mel and I were so fanatical. I knew what everyone had off market. I could say to someone, you're looking between 2 and 2. There's 10 houses. Have you seen this, 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 this? At one point, I even knew what time they were open for inspection, some of them, because we had, like, what else were Mel and I going to do when we're in a brand new business with
Yeah.
nothing? We don't have a database. So we use sellers to become buyers to become raving fans, and that's how we build a business. So
Gotcha.
that's an example of some qualification. Just
Yep.
stick to the people, just stick to the ones that are going to buy something. Just figure out how to figure that out.
If I've got Clay, can you give your situation now on that house you got in Malabar?
Yeah, so signed it up. Price guide 4.2. The owners are at 4.8, which they knew was probably a bit ambitious, but we assumed the whole time it should be worth anywhere from 4.5 to 4.8 at the upper end. With a price guide of 4.2, a few things have come up in that price point, but I pretty much don't have anyone on it halfway through the
Okay.
campaign.
Halfway.
How long? It's
Adrian,
been on
would
for how
you,
long?
2 weeks.
How many buyers have been through?
I've had about 22.
How many would you expect would go through in that time frame?
A touch more, probably anywhere from like 30-ish, 35 in 2 weeks.
How many qualified buyers have you had through?
2, I reckon.
And why don't they want to buy it?
Floor plan doesn't suit what they're after. It's a bit unique. Like it's split over 3 levels, doesn't have a big living area and what have you. So it's a unique
Okay.
floor plan.
So I don't know how quick your market works. Like I'd look at that in 2 ways. And I would say sometimes it's more beneficial when you've got buyers going through. Because what I would say to my client is like you've had 22 groups, there's 6 qualified buyers. There are 6 people that would buy a house in the next 4 weeks up to $5 million. They don't want to do it. Oh, why is that? For various reasons. So if we don't have a buyer 2 weeks in, you can only have a buyer for like 1 or 2 reasons. You haven't met a buyer, which is really concerning, but you have met buyers. But you met buyers, but for whatever reason, they're not seeing value. So the question is, why are they not seeing value? And that's where product knowledge steps in. What else is sold in the price point in the last 2 weeks? Anything?
Not in this particular price point. Like something at 5 million and another at 4.1.
Okay. And do you know those? Like what I'd be showing my client is with that. So the one at 5 million, do you know who the buyer was?
No, I don't know who the buyer was of that.
You know the buyer at 4.1?
Yes, I know the buyer at 4.1.
And did they look at this house? Like, did they have more than
Yeah.
4.1 to spend? They did?
Yeah, they did have
so
more
like,
one. Yeah.
So you got 2 options there, right? I would say to the clients, we have to make a decision, or we don't have to make a decision, right? So either right now we can just stay as we are, and one of the best things in this market is just composure. So if we're right, we have a view, we've formed a view on what this is worth, because you've done the whole listing appointment and you've done pricing. We have a view on what this is worth, right? Now, we've had 2 people through, 2 qualified buyers. Don't worry about the 22. It would have been better if there was 4 or 5 or 6, but we have had qualified buyers look at the house. But there is nothing selling at the price point, and it's not like they're considering something else over you. So what we could do at this point is we could give this one more week. Let's see what happens in a week from now. But if we're having this conversation a week from now, we are going to have a sit down, and we are going to have a conversation. And I'm just putting on the table, that conversation is going to be pretty frustrating. Why is that? Because we're going to be talking about price potentially. But right now, my decision is, let's just go one more week. Let's see who turns up. Let's assess the buyer pool. You know the web hits. Are you looking at, you guys get web hits?
Yeah, we go through all that.
So guys, you got people clicking on it. The market knows about it. You do have people turning up. 2 out of 22 suggests that maybe the buyer pool has constricted a little bit, and that could be sort of the market. But let's not sort of go blaming the market on everything. Let's just say that maybe circumstances have changed a bit. Let's give it one more week. Let's see how we go. All I would do is I'd ramp up communication in that week. You're probably going to have an open house, or you will have another open house. And then you've already pre-framed what's happening. They're going to know what's coming. So guys, let's talk about this. What do you see as your options? One of the best questions to ask is, how long do we have? And what is your desire to sell?
That's a good one.
I'm not sort of super direct, because you have to be sensitive with this, right? Someone's live you're talking about here. How long do we have? And I know you've spent 10 grand getting it ready and 10 grand on furniture, but do you still feel like you've got the same appetite to sell? Definitely. Are you disappointed with where we're at right now? Yeah, we are. Okay. I'm just gonna say this. I accept responsibility for that. I'm your agent. I told you I'd get it sold. I told you I'd get it sold in 19 days. I'm going to accept responsibility for where we are right now. So I'm actually saying sorry to you. That's what I'm saying. I'm owning it. I always do that, guys. Always. I'm owning it. People say, don't say sorry. I'm owning it. Okay. But what I am, is I'm 100% committed to getting you sold. And what I want to do is deliver you some options so that you can get sold. Now, I'll give you different options and you can pick one. Now, just for a tough market, I learned this analogy a while ago. It's the lever system, right? And the lever system is this. As a seller, you've only got 2 levers that you can pull at any point in time. The first lever is time. The second lever is price, right? So to that point, that example that we're talking about, right? The guide's 4.2. The owners will be like, oh, the market's crumbled. This has happened, blah, blah, blah. Okay, sure, maybe but can I ask you this, Ive? What do you think would happen if the price guide got dropped to $3 million? Do you think people would turn up and have a look? Yep.
It'd be people everywhere.
A lot of people everywhere. Okay. What do you think, just for argument's sake, if instead of having a guide of 4.2, we put it up to 6.2, what do you think would happen? Do you think anyone would turn up?
No one's showing up.
Okay. So do you see how the market is sensitive to price? I've just given you an example. I can issue 30 contracts if I want. So that's the conversation that we need to have. Now, the way to move something closer to a sale is to increase the value proposition to the market. Now, we just have to decide, we're 3 weeks in, 2 weeks in. We thought it'd be 4.5 to 4.8. Now, if you've got dreams to go sail around the world and stuff and you can't do it, then let's just put this on the table. And, we might have to see this out of the next few weeks. But if your desire is to sell it, there's also a window to get you sold. And that's not to let this drag for a long time. So I'm trying to be sensitive when I say that. We need to have a plan. And I need to have a plan. And for you guys listening, you always need to have a plan, and you always need to feel like you're in control. Because if you're not in control, or you start avoiding your client and you just don't want to answer their call, you're gone. Trust is eroded in the toilet. The communication should ramp up when the conversations get hard. That's when they get hard. So you talk more and you have conversations that people are scared to have. So in that example, I would just create this framework. It could be time on market, right? If it's not time on market, like I do give people the example of how they can tinker with the guide and all of a sudden activate the market. So what I would say in that instance, this is what I would say, but I don't know the dynamics behind the seller's motivation, is I'd say our number one priority right now is getting more qualified buyers through the house. That's our number one priority. How do we do that? What tools do we have at our disposal? We can reshuffle the photos, do things like that. But the big ticket is, and I just want to address it, is that we need to relook at the guide. And we need to relook at the guide. I'm not suggesting that you reassess your pricing expectations. What I'm suggesting is that we look at our pricing strategy. But the two typically do go hand in hand. So I'm also owning that. So what we need right now, what's important to this campaign, while we still have momentum, is we need more people who have seen it to turn up and have a look. Because if we do that, then we're getting closer to a sale. So we need to think, well, what does that look like? Now, some people might take 50 grand off the guide. In that instance, I'll be like, guys, that's not going to wash. Realistically, if we're going to do this, we do it. And we probably need a guide of 395, something like that. But you also have to be very delicate when you deliver this, because what you are trying to do is activate their campaign. You're trying to deliver them more buyers so that there's more interest, ideally competition, may not be competition, or the perception of competition to push a buyer up. That's what you need to do.
Thanks, Age. So based on what you're hearing from Clay's example, you think it's a price thing?
100%. It's always a price thing, unless some markets are slow. And I don't know.
But that's okay. You answered it. So Clay, he's answered it. It's a price thing. You're still too high. And you even said yourself, a lot of listings have come up, Clay, in that price point.
Yeah.
A quick question. Sammy, do you want to ask your question just about length of phone calls? I thought that's a good one. And Age, I just want you to be conscious, mate. We're looking for 1 minute answers now. 1.5 minutes. I've got 10. Yeah.
Like your showers, 1.5 minutes.
Oh, mate, that's a very personal thing to be talking about. But yeah, anyway. I do have 3 of them a day. But anyway, Sammy.
Hi, Adrian. How you going? Just wanted to get any tips on how to keep the phone call shorter without coming across, abrupt, short, but still getting everything that you need to get out of the conversation.
Yeah. I don't have an issue with a long call if it's with the right person, because I don't actually make that many calls. So my calls are longer. But with those short ones, you just got to get cut to the chase. Like on a follow-up call, like specifically, I'll tell you how I do those quickly when I do them, right? Mm-hmm. All I would do is I would say to you on the weekend, Sammy, nice to meet you, looking to buy, qualify. I might say to you, looking at anything else today? You might say, yeah, I'm looking at Denison Street, something like that. I just make that little note. So when I call you back, the way I get people to call me back is I'll ring you and I'll say, hey, Sammy, Adrian, just before I ask you about this house, Denison Street, did you go and have a look at that? Do you like it? No, I've ruled that out. Okay. Would you consider buying the one that I showed you? No, you wouldn't. Okay. On the weekend, you said 3 beds up to 1.5. You want to buy in the next 4 weeks. There's nothing else you're considering. You've seen everything at the price point. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to keep you posted. Do you have anything to sell? Like in what time frame? Are you going to, it sounds like, you're going to buy first, then you're selling. Yeah. Do you have an agent for that? I don't go that hard on the selling part. You guys can do that, because I think that your opportunity, like this is what I found. If I do that conversation well, another checkpoint, they'll ask you to come in and appraise it. That's what they'll say. So that's a good example there. But what I would say in this market is don't be afraid to have a long conversation with the right buyer. I've been talking to these two other buyers on this Annandale sale. Anyway, I did what I had to do.
Age,
does that help? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so I think further to Adrian's point, he's saying if it's a potential seller, mate, and it takes time, I guess you have to do that. But I think what I find with high performers, Sammy, is their ability to qualify and utilize their time well, because that's all we've got. You've all only got 10 hours of work day, 10 work hours a day maximum. They use that really well. Any high performer, it's all about how much can they get out of their time. So that should help. If I'm an agent at the moment, Adrian, I said to you, I've got a really good stock list. What would you say to that?
That's good.
Any other comments? I've got a lot of listings at the moment. I feel really, really good about that.
Are they sellable?
I think so.
Oh, you're doing well. Well done. That's the goal.
Yeah.
I would be saying many agents do. But the trick at the moment is not listing. The trick is how do we move it to a sale? Saleable. They got to be saleable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got to be
Yeah.
saleable. That would be my
Um,
question. Yeah. Because I hear that all the time. I got, like
the
people
problem is
like,
the challenge is if you ask an agent, are they saleable? What does every agent say?
I don't know.
I think most agents go, yeah, they're really
I actually
saleable.
don't know.
They haven't realised that there's a lot of work we've got to do here to get this thing sold. Um, Gav Lewis, did you want to talk about your sort of two, or do you think, are you okay about that?
No, I'm all good from what
I
I've sort of
thought
taken.
so, because you and
Yeah.
I talked about that. Vinny, did you want to talk about just some buy, like because I think that's pretty consistent with what people are experiencing, which is buyers are fairly non-committal and some
Mm.
vendors are high price. It's the same sort of conversation we just had with Clay and a lot of what Adrian's talked about today. But
It's funny, what Adrian said right at the beginning, where that negotiation took 4 days to get 100 grand or 60 grand. The one
yeah,
I sold during the week that I told you about took me 4 days to get 25 grand. It was a lower price point, but it was the same. And it was exactly to Adrian's point, like a lot of conversations with buyer and seller.
yeah, yeah.
But it took the auction was meant to be tomorrow. It took us 4.5 weeks to actually find a buyer to engage on it.
Did you have to drop the price during the campaign?
No, actually, because I had a really low guide to start, and the only way to keep the vendors on side was to keep very gradually increasing it, which is actually what helped us bring it together at the end.
Good work, mate. Good work. Okay, good. Paul Jukes, did you want to ask Adrian any questions while you got the big man here?
Yeah, mate. What does he do with your voice apps, mate? What are you sort of leaving, Adrian, in that?
oh yeah, voice notes have changed my life, honestly. So what I find frustrating when I'm managing my time is if you have to talk to the husband and the wife, like it kills me, right? So I just say to everyone now, I'm going to leave voice notes for you. So just as an example, like I reckon I've trimmed down 80% of conversations to voice notes now. So like, let's say tomorrow I'm calling, like, okay, I got an open house tomorrow, first one. I'll leave those clients a voice note. So this is what I say. I was like, guys, I'm leaving you a voice note. The reason why I'm leaving you a voice note is so that you can listen to this when it's convenient, or you guys can listen to, when you're together later tonight or whenever. So it's the same messaging. There's no communication breakdown. This is what I expect tomorrow. So it's our first open house. There are some parameters we can have in place for the first open house at this sort of price point, somewhere between 10 and 20 groups. The reason why 10 and 20 groups is important is because the more people that come through, the more chances there are qualified buyers. What I'd like to be ringing you and saying to you tomorrow is we've had 20 groups through, 6 qualified buyers. Of the 6 qualified buyers, 3 of them are actually considering the house. What we also do at Breezy Whitney is there's a building and pest report online and a contract to sell. If I'm saying that, we'll also then monitor that buyer behavior over the weekend, and I'll give you real-time updates on WhatsApp. If you guys have got any questions, just call me. Boom, done. So like I've actually considered doing a generic voice WhatsApp thing, but I'm not going to do it. But like I'm doing that. Then after the open house, I jump in the car. I've just closed up, driven off, 15 groups through. There's at least 4 qualified buyers. That's actually a pretty good open house. 3 of those guys I know really well. They're in the market. They're going to buy something. I'm going to follow them up on Monday. But I'm pretty happy with that report. Have a good weekend. If you want to call me, just call me. But that's about all I've got for you right now. Done. Boom. That's 2 conversations. Like, yeah. So I just go through my list and I just call everyone. Like, just voice notes for everyone.
Good one, mate. Christian, do you want to hit Adrian with your question, mate?
Yep, thanks. Yeah, Adrian, just going to ask, just to get your feedback on pushing that off-market route in, when you're pitching to owners, some that it might be on the fence, probably got a realistic expectation, but saying, look, we do a lot of off-market to try to get the listing, or in this type of market, should we sort of sway away from that?
Okay, so this is interesting, right? I sway away from off-market because I find it to be like an activity trap. It depends why you're doing it. So if you got to buy, that's awesome. But I find off-market is a way for people to, and like this could be a strategy, like they tell the owner a lot and they use it as an instant conditioning tool. I don't really feel the need to do that, right? But I understand some people do that. So you can use that as a segue to the market, then you can blame the buyers and say, let's go on. So I like, if that's reflective of like what stage of your career you're at, and I'm like, if that's something that you want to do. Like, let's say you're saying to someone, I think this is worth 2.7 and 2.8, but you want to test the market at 3.32. Why don't we go off market? I've got at least 6 buyers that are looking to buy in the next 4 weeks at that price point. Why don't we get them in and see what they say? But if we're going to do that, I'll also get 6 buyers sort of between 2.7 and 3, because let's see if we can take something from the exercise. And if you're right, everyone should say that they're interested. If they don't want to buy at the higher price point and the lower price point do, then it may mean that perhaps, the assessment's too high. So like, you can juggle that around. I don't do it. I always try to get straight on the market. I say to clients, like, just for what it's worth, I believe a sales campaign should not be a 4-week program. It can be 4 weeks, sort of, labeled 4 weeks, but campaigns should be assessed in 7-day increments. Because if you have your first open house and you don't have a buyer after the first 7 days, when, like, we all acknowledge, you've got your database through realestate.com, domain.com, busy open house, you may have a problem. So I set that up from the beginning. There's 1,000 things I do. Half of them I can't articulate. But I go straight on the market, and but I'm really particular about pricing and getting the right guide from the outset. But you can take that step. If you're struggling at the moment and you're about to lose a listing, don't lose it because there's a bit of a gap. That's how I would address it. But at the same time, don't put it on and then waste 4 weeks. I say to people, the buyer curve looks something like this, and I draw it up at my listing appointments. It looks something like this. If you're 2 weeks in and your strategy, like most of my competitors around here, is to adjust the price after 2 weeks, that blows my mind because the momentum's just gone past you. Pricing needs to be addressed from the beginning, from the outset, and we have to do that. So if you want to take that step, by all means, go for it. But, guys, this is a big thing. If you want to be credible agents, don't say shit that you can't do. If you got buyers, then do. Like Shannon and I have taught me this a long time ago. If you can do it, do it. Just don't say it. Oh, I've got this, I've got that, I've got a buyer practice. No. People see through that. So if you legitimately have a handful of really good buyers, that's what I focus on. I've got these, and the seller will pick that up. They'll be like, yeah, this guy's telling the truth. And you can demonstrate how you've met the buyers.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Just on the buyer, what did you call that? The buyer what?
Buyer wave.
The buyer wave. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's good. Brian, did you want to ask Adrian while we got time, mate? Your thing.
I think Christian's point actually touched on it, because then I am working off markets as well as on markets at the moment, and then obviously with the challenge in the market, you're obviously spending more time trying to sell those ones that are currently on the market. So that's right.
Okay, good. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. I do want to ask Adrian, Oddi, about I love your weekly newsletter, Adrian. I'll tell everyone how good it is that your team sends out. But I'm going to go to Tom first, Petrosito, and then I'll come back to that. Tommy?
Hi, Adrian. Just wanted to bring my question, like how to create more urgency to, say, a possible seller or lead that you get. Like, how would you create someone like urgency when, say, you've got like a seller who's looking to sell in like 6 months' time to bring it forward?
Yeah, so good. I'll ask a question a bit more for everybody. That's a good one, Tommy. If they find a potential seller in due course, how do you progress them quicker?
Yeah. I don't have a set answer for that, but what I would say, like, instinctively is I think there are 4 selling seasons to the year. So if I'm chatting to somebody right now and they're like, we'll sell later this year, I'll be like, I actually don't agree with that, because, and then I explain to them, like, I've got a calendar, which, can I have a calendar, Jasmine? I'll just show you guys something right now. This is the calendar that I show people. I just draw up the 4 selling seasons of the year. Sorry, no calendars.
I thought there was 3, but anyway.
Yeah.
I thought 3. I thought there was 3: pre-Easter, mid-year, and spring. But you've got 4. But go ahead.
There's 4, mate. Okay, that's the calendar. So pre-Easter is 1. Pre-winter is 1. Early spring, late spring. Right? Early spring, late spring. Spring comes in 2 waves. That's what I think. Everyone gets excited, they launch, then it sort of dies down a bit, and then they go again. Right? So what I share with people is, you want to, if I'm talking to somebody now and they're like, we're going to sell in October, November, I'll be like, I actually think that's a huge mistake, because what we're seeing and all the data is pointing to like huge increased stock levels. Now, I won't bore you with the conversation. Just explain the ratio seller demand thing. Also, my general observation is that October, November, December, in particular November, middle of November, especially around Melbourne Cup Day, things start to change a bit. Now, also, like just for what it's worth, like this is what I'd say to someone. At the moment, we're averaging 15 groups for our open house. If you push that out to November, December, because we use Home Pass and we check people in electronically, what I can tell you is the average number of open house attendees drops below 8 in November because there's so much choice. So there's not as many people turning up because they're looking at lots of properties. In December, it drops to 2. So you have an option right now of being in a market where you can have whatever it is, like whatever the number is, like whatever the legitimate number is. But I guarantee you, web traffic dies in November, December. So that's how I bring somebody forward. So like everything is done with reasoning.
No, that's a great one. Adrian's saying you'll get a lot more buyers through your opens now, Tommy, than you will later. But what if I'm a seller, Adrian? I said, oh, okay, so November, December's no good. Why don't I just wait till February, March?
I don't really have an issue with that. But can I give you an example of? So I just appraised this house. It's probably worth 5. And the lady said to me, I'm going next year. Andrew and Maddie have got a house in Louisa Road on the market. The guide on that's 5.2, sells for 5.7, I think, 5.7 and a bit last Friday. So I actually said to the lady, can you just watch this house? Because I actually think it's the same buyer pool as yours. I know you want to go next year and you got to mentally get around it. So I'm not trying to put any pressure, but why don't you just watch this? Just watch it. So anyway, it's got a guide of 5.2. It goes for 5.7. She actually messages me and says, wow, that's a good result. Do you think you've got any buyers for mine? So like I basically said, I'm not playing games with people's minds, but I planted the seed. And then I email it to her as sold, and she follows me up and says, what buyer, like, do you have any buyers for mine? Off the back of that, I'm like, definitely. So like product knowledge, market knowledge, all that is how you generate listings, not trickery, like if that makes sense. It's common sense.
I love it, mate.
Yeah.
Just a couple more, mate, and then we'll say goodbye. So we know how valuable your time is. And this, I think, Mel, George, I might just, there's a few people have been speaking about these things. So I might, Adrian, if you're an agent at the moment and it feels like a grind because see, every day you go to work, you're getting a listing or a sale or offer acceptance or something like that. If you're an agent where you're having to go every day and it feels like a grind, and I haven't had an exchange for a while and, I'm getting a couple of setbacks. Okay, so my name's not Adrian Oddi, my name's Ivan, and I haven't had a sale for a month. I'm getting setbacks, and it feels like a grind. Well, how would you coach me through that?
Well, I have experienced a bit of that. Like, so full disclosure to the group, I felt like a couple of weeks ago, I had a bit of a dip in that space, and we happened to have a session, and I said to you, I just lost like 3 listings went online. That never happens to me. And then you like slap me out of it straight away. You're like, mate, why are we talking about this? So it happens to everyone. That's the first thing. And I'm acknowledging that. And that's what these markets do. But again, my answers are so simple. Just one of the things you can do, and when I've worked in really, really hard markets, I just say to myself, it's one day at a time. I'm going to get through to the end of the day. I'm going to get home. And then tomorrow morning, I'm pressing the reset button.
Yeah.
And tomorrow's another day. That's how I've dealt with, like Mel can attest to, the hardest year I've ever had in real estate was when I joined Brunswick Whitney in 2013. I've never had that many setbacks. I actually wanted to walk away. I thought I was a fraud, even though I'd come from another office and I was doing well. I was like it was all about them, not about me. But every day, like, I know this sounds crazy talking about it, but I'm just going to share it. Like, I listened to motivational music. There wasn't podcasts back then. I'd listen to music. I'd get through the day. And then I would say to myself when I got home, I'm pressing reset. Tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow's another day. Who knows what's going to come? And that's literally how I got through the hardest year in real estate. But I thought about giving up. I don't think I ever would have done it. But I did think about it, and those thoughts were okay. And there were times where I had to get in my car. Pretty sure, like, this might sound weird. I'm pretty sure I probably cried a few times because I was just like, I'm broken. Like, what just happened to me? I was number 1 in the area. At an office, had it so cushy, gone and started Brunswick Whitney, sold the thing that I'm a rock star to Ivan and Shannon. And here I am, and there's just nothing doing. And Mel and I just like felt like we're going up against like a mountain. So
Yeah.
these are just the things. Just go back to your energy, go back to your health, go back to your mindset, and then press reset every day. Every
Yeah.
day. Every day is a new day. A lot can change in 24 hours. And when you
Yeah.
start to think more positively, like, you know what? This might sound like woo-woo, but when I'm like ready and I want the universe to send me listings, I actually say, come on, like, I'm ready for this now. Send me some listings. But that's better than me saying, don't send me listings. I don't want any listings. Like, that might sound woo-woo, but like, I believe like you put an energy out there. So, if you're energized, you got 10 out of 10 product knowledge, 10 out of 10 buyer work. You deserve, like, the success has to go somewhere, and it's not going to go to someone not doing that work. If you can tick those 3 boxes, there's all this success out there. It has to go to someone. Just do that and see what happens. And yeah, some days might be hard, but if it's hard, press reset, do it again the next day. And then I guarantee it'll go to you like a magnet. And that's how I've like spent 23 years in real estate with, really like, focusing on 3 areas of my practice. I didn't complicate it at all. And there have been periods where I've had to press reset every day. And I can tell you what, I didn't want to get out of bed. I've heard this story. I don't know if you've heard my podcast, but there was aftershave I was spraying in 2013, this Tom Ford one someone gave me. If I smell that now, it makes me gag. I want to throw up. That's how hard I worked. First one into the office, last one out of the office. Like, I just, I dressed up even better than what I was doing. Like, I just went to the next level at everything.
Yeah.
I accepted the challenge, press reset every day.
Good on you. Yeah. So just further to that, George, Mel, and others, I think if it's like we're all climbing up a mountain, and for some people it's a bit easier, for some others it's a bit harder. It's like it's windy, rainy, I want to turn back, I want to go back down. That's what it'll feel like sometimes. But you've got to just, everyone, like if I had a one-on-one with you, George, and others, you kind of know what you have to do. Like, you have to get on the phones. You kind of have to stay positive. You may as well go out and see some open homes and things like that. You want to research the market. You want to build your own database. You want to ring some old clients. You want to do open homes, do them well. You want to do callbacks. Like, these are the basics. And so, good things take time. Adrian's done this for 23 years. Like, it's almost it almost is counteractive having Adrian here. He's done it for so long and so well. It would have been better having Adrian here if he'd done it year 5. He would sound very different and tell you a very different experience as to what he's experiencing in year 5 than he is 23 years later. So, but he can share the finer points of what's working for him now. And we, regardless of what level we're at, we go, okay, so buyers are important. Market knowledge is important. Staying positive is important. Healthy lifestyle is important. Frequency builds trust with my owners. That's important. Price guides are hugely important. If I've got a listing and then I'm getting no action, well, I better listen to what Adrian said. I've got to go address this with the vendor and try to bring the guide down. I've got to get some traction. So I think that's all good stuff. Age, I said before, I reckon you've got the best weekly newsletter, and I share it with everyone. So you send out every Friday, Jasmine or someone from your team sends out to your whole database a quick summary of what Bresic Whitney did that week in terms of your sales, highest sale price and whatever, and also what's for auction in your 4, 5, 6 core markets the next day. And then on Saturday night, there's a follow-up email that I get, which has all those auction results and the auction clearance rate. So,
correct,
guys, this is, by the way, he's developed this, so it's not new, but this is where you want to get to. If your goal in terms of your e-newsletter or your email communication with your database, this is the bar. This is as good as I've seen. And
can I share something?
Well, I'm going to come to you in a second. Yeah, I'll come to you in a second because I want to hear commentary on it. So he's built that up, and it goes out Friday and Saturday. It's allowed him to work less. He still works hard, but he works less because off the back of that, that's his prospecting. He gets emails and appraisals and calls off that. Now, that's 23 years, okay? Adrian, over to you. Just some commentary on that and any comments, mate.
Well, I think just send everyone the report if you haven't already and have a look. We get everyone's price guides. We put on there, it upsets all our competitors, but we don't really care because we're getting information out to the market. But that email is my number one lead source, like easily my number one lead source. Like that's why I've been fanatical about it for 7-8 years. And the other thing is I've spoken to like groups. I'm sure there's probably been well over 1,000 people that have heard my message. Out of all those people, one person's implemented it. And I'm not going to say who it is, but that guy, I've been watching that person's career and their career has definitely improved. It's been probably 2 years in the making now. Yeah. There is no doubt. And the weird thing is when I think of this suburb, I think of him too now. And I'm like, I wouldn't have done that before. Like not taken away from, like, because he's a lovely guy.
There is another guy. Sorry to cut you off. There is another guy who copied it, a guy called Lewis Jones, who works at Plum Property in Brisbane. He came and spent a morning with you. So
Did he? I didn't know that. That's good.
No, he copied yours, and I get his on Friday and Saturday, and it's in Brisbane.
Yeah, that's good.
I've seen his listings have gone up and his activity's gone up. And he didn't have a database like yours, and he's only 26 years old. Anyway, keep going.
Okay, so then what we do, the logic with the Saturday one is because, agents don't report their stuff in the paper. Our logic is we want to get all the information to everybody and get it out before like Domain or realestate.com sends it. So it's a monumental effort. Like it's hours and hours a week, hours. But like the return on it is unbelievable. Like it'll get sent today and I'm going to sit here and hope that I get 1 or 2 leads from it. Like not leads, actual appraisals from it. That's what I hope every Friday. So, our competitors have tried to copy it. They've done it. They usually, like I said, it goes for about a month and it all just fizzles because it's way too much work. There are other competitors that get ours and they just rebrand it and send it. Like, good on them, at least they're doing something. But I think you got to get the information out first. We get like, here's the buyer's guide. The buyer's guide was either reduced or increased, and there's the result. Like we actually hold everybody accountable, including ourselves, and we get people prices. So like, it's the quality of information going out, and I'm fascinated that so many people want that information. I send it to over 2,000 people a week, but it goes out collectively to over 5,000 people. Then because it evolved, like we now have a feature property note, which I sell at listing appointments. I'm like, this must be the most read email at listing appointment. This must be the most read newsletter in the whole suburb. It goes out once a week, and I can have you featured on there. Now people say to me at listings, can I be the feature property there? Anyway, it just shows you how things evolve over time. I'm fanatical about it.
Yeah, and I've kept Adrian on longer today, everyone, than other speakers. He's given us a lot of context about how he's dealing with things, and he had those 6 or 7 points which he prepared for today, which is excellent. And then we've asked him some questions off the back of that. So I think in summary, thanks. Has anyone got any questions for Adrian before we say goodbye to Adrian? And I'd like to just finish up after he leaves. Any questions, anybody?
Mate, I think that what I love, mate, is him and like Liddell, just good human beings, mate, more than anything. Like we are seeing a shift, especially out sort of where we are, just a lot of egos, and mate, I just love the fact that mate, they're just good human beings, mate. So that's what I like, mate, Yeah. So well done. Adrian, thanks for your time, mate. Really appreciate it.
That's very kind, thank you.
I think
you
also
know what? This is our industry, right? I've had a long-term career, and I've always focused on those 3 things, and I've always prioritized. This is another thing. I've always prioritized a relationship over a transaction. That's why I say sorry. That's why sometimes I drop my fee. I've always prioritized a relationship over a transaction. I've bought and sold 8 times. 2 of those people, when they see me, they have to hide. And I'm like, imagine having a real estate career like that where you have to hide from people. Like, I want people to like acknowledge me and, do that sort of thing. And I think the ego thing, like, I reckon that's actually like so 80s, not 80s, 90s. Like, we're just normal people. Like, no disrespect, like we sell houses. Sometimes when you go out into life and you have these other experiences, you're like, oh, wow, okay, what we do is simple. But also just understand this, what we do is very important. Now, this is a dramatic example, right? If you think about the responsibility you all have when you sell a house, it is monumental. It can be the difference between somebody retiring a year or 2 years earlier if you execute well. Think about that. Now you can actually put a dollar figure, and it's someone's time. If the doctor said you got a year left, you'd be like, geez. But you can say to someone, here, I'll give you 2 years of your life. Like, you can retire because I'm going to execute so well, take the responsibility that I have. So I think with Andy and I, we always work like we're number 2. right? We always work like that, but we always put the client first. Our skill set's there. We just want to get people the best price, and like, who cares? We're just agents. Like,
Yeah.
but like,
thanks, Age.
yeah,
I think
you get what I'm
everybody
saying.
too.
I might have to
Yeah,
go.
I think everybody, sorry to cut you, is they've helped each other too. So 1+1 = 3 there. Adrian and Andrew have built a great team, but they've actually helped each other more than anything. They know about it, but they've kind of nice, healthy competition, teamwork. How can we do this? They've strategized. How can they beat that agency? How can they beat that agency? They've supported each other. They've co-listed. So I think for a lot of you, you can do well on your own, but you can do even better if you find the right person to align yourself with. Me and Shannon did that. Adrian and Andrew have done that. So 1+1 = 3. We've all heard that. They're a good example of that, Paul. Also, there's 3 BW agents in here, so probably not for them. But everybody else, if you're in Sydney, if you're coming up to Sydney, because there's 3 Melbourne agents here, if you wanted, Adrian and Andrew have always got time. They don't give it away willingly. But if you organise it a few weeks before and you want to go into their office, Paul, Pete Starr, whoever, the guys from Melbourne, if you want to go in, just send me an email or whatever. I'll connect you, and they're always open for you to go in and shadow them for an hour or two if you buy them a coffee and say hello. So if that's of interest, that's always an option as well. So just want to put that. Is that right, Adrian?
100%. And guys, shout out to Jack. He's in your group. Jack is flying at the moment. Like, Jack's inspiring me. Like, I've never seen someone turn their life around so much in 12 months. Like, ask the bloke what he's doing. He's inspiring me. So yeah, you're right. I'm Andrew's biggest supporter. He's mine. That's amazing for a relationship. But like, I'm going to acknowledge Jack because he's in the group and because I sit next to him. But Jack, I'm so proud of him. He's flying. Absolutely flying. His stock sheet's going to be bigger than mine in the next 6 months. And that's just like, whatever you guys are doing as a group, just keep doing it. You're flying.
Good.
I really have to go, guys. I had an appraisal every day.
Mate, appreciate you, man. Have a good one. Thank you. We can close that
Yeah,
up.
thank you.
That was really good, guys.